Welcome to our channel, where we share stories that ignite change and challenge injustice. If this tale moves you, please hit that like button and drop a comment below to share your thoughts. What do you think about this powerful story of resilience and justice? Your support keeps these stories alive. This is a riveting tale of prejudice, perseverance, and the power of truth. When a black teen is ejected from a courtroom for daring to observe, the judge thinks he's silenced an outsider. But 60 minutes later, the teen's mentor, a formidable lawyer, shuts the entire case down, exposing systemic flaws. What happens when the person you dismissed becomes the key to your reckoning? Get ready for a story that redefines courage and accountability. The morning sun cast long shadows across the steps of the Durham County Courthouse in Durham, North Carolina, on a humid Wednesday in September 2025. The building, a mix of modern glass and historic brick, hummed with the usual bustle of attorneys, clerks, and defendants navigating the labyrinth of justice. Inside courtroom 4A, a preliminary hearing was set to begin for a minor drug possession case, a routine matter that drew little attention. Among the sparse gallery was Isaiah Turner, a 17-year-old black teen, seated in the back row, his posture straight, his eyes sharp. Dressed in a neatly pressed button-up shirt, khakis, and worn sneakers, he clutched a spiral notebook and a pen, ready to take notes. His close-cropped hair and wire-rimmed glasses gave him a studious air, but his presence went unnoticed by most. Until it didn't. Isaiah was there to support his friend, Marcus Hayes, the 18-year-old defendant accused of possessing a small amount of marijuana. The two had grown up together in Durham's Haiti neighborhood, their bond forged through shared dreams of escaping the cycle of poverty. Isaiah, a senior at Durham High, was set on becoming a lawyer, inspired by late-night reruns of Law and Order and a dog-eared copy of Just Mercy he'd read twice. Marcus's case, though minor, was a chance for Isaiah to observe the system up close, to learn its rhythms and flaws. He'd been mentored for the past year by a local attorney, and today was his first time in a courtroom, his notebook a shield against the nerves fluttering in his chest. The courtroom was half empty, with a few reporters from the Durham Herald-Sun, a bored bailiff named Officer Daniels, and a handful of spectators, mostly family members of other defendants. At the bench sat Judge Harold Grayson, a 60-year-old white man with a reputation for efficiency and a temper that flared when challenged. His silver hair was slicked back, his black robe crisp, and his glasses perched low on his nose as he scanned the docket. Grayson prided himself on keeping his courtroom orderly, but whispers of bias had trailed him for years, especially in cases involving young black defendants. Today his mood was already sour, irritated by a delayed start and a stack of paperwork he hadn't reviewed. As the hearing began, Marcus's public defender, a harried young woman named Emily Chen, shuffled through her files at the defense table. Marcus, in a borrowed suit that hung loosely on his frame, sat beside her, his hands clasped tightly. The prosecutor, a veteran named Richard Holt, leaned back in his chair, confident the case was a slam dunk. Isaiah, in the back, scribbled notes, jotting down phrases like chain of custody and probable cause he'd learned from his mentor. His pen moved quietly, but his presence caught Judge Grayson's eye during a lull in the proceedings. Grayson's gaze narrowed, his lips pursing as he leaned forward. "Young man in the back," he barked, his voice cutting through the room. "Who are you and why are you here?" Isaiah froze, his pen hovering over the page. All eyes turned to him, the reporters pausing their typing, the bailiff straightening. He stood slowly, his voice steady despite the sudden spotlight. "My name is Isaiah Turner, Your Honor. I'm a friend of the defendant, and I'm studying to be a lawyer. I'm here to observe and take notes." His words were polite, measured, but Grayson's face darkened, his irritation flaring. "This isn't a classroom, son," he snapped, the word son dripping with condescension. "This is a court of law. You don't belong here unless you're a party to the case. Get out." The room went quiet, the air heavy with tension. Emily Chen glanced back at Isaiah, her expression sympathetic but helpless. Marcus shifted in his seat, his eyes wide with worry. Isaiah, still standing, adjusted his glasses, his voice calm but firm. "With respect, Your Honor, I believe I have the right to observe a public proceeding. I'm not disrupting anything." Grayson's face reddened, his gavel slamming down with a crack that echoed off the walls. "Don't lecture me, boy. You're out of line. Bailiff, remove him, now." Officer Daniels, a burly man in his 40s, hesitated, sensing the overreach, but moved toward Isaiah, his hand on his radio. The reporters scribbled furiously, one whispering to another, "This is going viral." A woman in the gallery, Marcus's aunt, muttered, "That ain't right," her phone already recording. Isaiah raised his hands slightly, signaling compliance. "I'll go, Your Honor," he said, gathering his notebook, "but I'd like to stay and support my friend." Grayson waved him off, his voice cold. "You're one step from contempt. Keep talking, and you'll be in a cell." Daniels escorted Isaiah to the door, his grip firm but not rough, his expression conflicted. "Just go, kid," he muttered. "Don't make this worse." Isaiah nodded, his face unreadable, but his mind was racing. As he stepped into the courthouse hallway, the heavy oak door closing behind him, he pulled out his phone and dialed a number, his voice low and urgent. "Ms. Reynolds, it's Isaiah. You were right. They did exactly what you said. He kicked me out, threatened contempt. Yeah, courtroom 4A. Can you come now?" The voice on the other end was calm but resolute. "On my way. Stay put, Isaiah. This ends today." Back in the courtroom, the hearing resumed, but the mood had shifted. Emily Chen, rattled by the exchange, fumbled her opening statement while Holt smirked, sensing an easy win. Marcus kept glancing at the door, his hope fading with Isaiah's absence. Grayson, now in control, leaned back in his chair, his earlier outburst seemingly forgotten. The reporters, however, were focused on Isaiah's ejection, one live tweeting, "Black teen studying law kicked out of Durham court for not belonging. Judge Grayson losing it." By courtroom bias. The post gained traction, shared by local activists and law students, setting the stage for a storm no one in the room could yet see. Outside, Isaiah leaned against a marble pillar in the courthouse lobby, his notebook open, his pen moving quickly as he documented every detail. Grayson's words, Daniels's hesitation, the gallery's reactions. He'd been trained by his mentor to observe like a lawyer, to see the system's cracks and call them out. Today, those cracks were gaping, and he knew it. The lobby was quiet, save for the hum of a clerk typing and the occasional echo of footsteps. Isaiah checked his watch, 10:47 a.m. He closed his notebook, his heart steady despite the humiliation. He wasn't just a kid in over his head. He was a student of justice, and his lesson was about to begin. A few passers-by glanced at him, some with curiosity, others with pity, but Isaiah ignored them, his focus on the elevator doors across the lobby. He knew his mentor, Vanessa Reynolds, was coming, and with her, the weight of federal authority. She'd warned him this might happen. Courts dismissing young black voices, judges wielding power without scrutiny. "They'll test you," she'd said. "Stay calm, stay sharp, and let the truth do the work." Isaiah had listened, and now, as the elevator dinged, he stood a little taller, ready for the next move. The doors opened, and the courtroom was about to learn what happened when you underestimated the wrong teen. The Durham County Courthouse's courtroom 4A hummed with a strained normalcy as the hearing for Marcus Hayes's drug possession case plodded forward, but the air felt charged. as if the room sensed the disruption caused by Isaiah Turner's ejection was only the beginning. Judge Harold Grayson, his composure restored after his outburst, leaned back in his high-backed chair, his glasses glinting under the fluorescent lights, as he listened to Prosecutor Richard Holt outline the state's case. Holt, a seasoned attorney with a penchant for theatrics, gestured confidently, detailing the overwhelming evidence of Marcus's guilt. A small baggie of marijuana found during a traffic stop. At the defense table, Emily Chen, Marcus's overworked public defender, scribbled notes, her earlier fumble now a distant memory, as she prepared to challenge the stop's legality. Marcus, his borrowed suit creased, stared at the floor, his hope dimming without Isaiah in the gallery to anchor him. The spectators, a mix of Marcus's family, a few reporters from the Durham Herald-Sun, and curious locals, shifted restlessly, their attention split between the case and the lingering tension from Isaiah's removal. The bailiff, Officer Daniels, stood near the door, his arms crossed, his expression uneasy after escorting Isaiah out. He'd followed Grayson's order, but the teen's calm defiance and the gallery's murmurs gnawed at him. The reporters, sensing a bigger story, typed furiously, one uploading a clip of Isaiah's exit to X, captioned, "Teen studying law ejected from Durham court for observing. Is this justice?" Durham bias. The post was gaining traction, shared by activists and law professors, its reach growing with every minute. Outside in the courthouse lobby, Isaiah Turner stood by a marble pillar, his notebook now closed, his phone buzzing with notifications he ignored. His call to Vanessa Reynolds, his mentor and a formidable advocate for juvenile rights, had set the wheels in motion. Vanessa's voice had been steady, almost fierce when she'd said, "Stay put, Isaiah. This ends today." Now, as he waited, Isaiah replayed the courtroom scene in his mind. Grayson's sneer, the gavel's crack, the gallery's gasps. He'd faced dismissal before. Teachers who underestimated him, neighbors who saw only a kid from Haiti. But this was different. This was a judge, the system's gatekeeper, shutting him out for daring to learn. Yet Isaiah's resolve held firm, honed by months of Vanessa's mentorship and his own hunger for justice. At 11:42 a.m., exactly 57 minutes after his ejection, the elevator doors across the lobby slid open and 3 figures emerged, their presence commanding the space like a storm rolling in. Leading them was Vanessa Reynolds, a 45-year-old black attorney with a reputation for dismantling biased systems. Her tailored gray suit was sharp, her braids pulled into a neat bun, and her eyes burned with purpose. Flanking her were 2 federal observers from the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. Agent Laura Mitchell, a wiry woman with a tablet tucked under her arm, and Agent David Kwan, a broad-shouldered man carrying a leather portfolio. Their badges gleamed, and the lobby's hum fell silent as clerks and passers-by turned to stare. Isaiah stepped forward, his posture straight, his notebook clutched like a shield. "Ms. Reynolds," he said, his voice low but steady. Vanessa's face softened for a moment, a rare smile breaking through. "You did good, Isaiah. Let's finish this." She turned to Mitchell and Kwan, nodding, and the group moved toward courtroom 4A, their footsteps echoing on the marble floor. A clerk at the reception desk fumbled her phone, whispering to a colleague, "Who are they?" The answer came swiftly as the courtroom doors swung open, and Vanessa's voice cut through the ongoing hearing like a blade. "Excuse the interruption, Your Honor," Vanessa said, striding to the center of the room, her tone polite but unyielding. "Vanessa Reynolds, Juvenile Defense Counsel, U.S. Department of Justice. These are Agents Mitchell and Kwan, federal observers. We're here regarding a serious procedural violation." The room froze. Grayson's gavel hovered mid-air, his face paling as he registered the badges and the weight of Vanessa's presence. Holt, the prosecutor, sat up, his confidence wavering, while Emily Chen's eyes widened, sensing a shift. Marcus, startled, looked up, hope flickering as he saw Isaiah trailing the group, his notebook still in hand. Grayson recovered quickly, his voice gruff. "Ms. Reynolds, this is highly irregular. We're in the middle of a hearing. What's the meaning of this?" Vanessa stepped closer to the bench, her portfolio open, a stack of documents visible. "The meaning, Your Honor, is that you ejected a minor from a public proceeding without cause, threatened him with contempt, and violated his civil rights. That minor, Isaiah Turner, is my mentee and a participant in a DOJ youth advocacy program. He's also my best student." She gestured to Isaiah, who stood tall beside Mitchell, his expression calm but his eyes locked on Grayson. The gallery gasped, whispers rippling through the room. The reporters' keyboards clattered, one live tweeting, "DOJ attorney storms Durham court after teen's ejection. Judge Grayson in hot water. Yar justice for Isaiah." Marcus's aunt clutched her purse, her face beaming with pride. Holt leaned toward his co-counsel, muttering, "This is bad." Emily Chen, seizing the moment, stood. "Your Honor, if there's a procedural issue, I move to pause the hearing until it's resolved." Grayson's jaw tightened, but he nodded, his authority slipping. "Court's in recess for 15 minutes. Ms. Reynolds, my chambers, now." In Grayson's chambers, a wood-paneled room lined with law books, the tension was palpable. Vanessa, Mitchell, and Quan sat across from Grayson, who slumped slightly in his chair, his earlier bravado gone. Isaiah remained in the courtroom per Vanessa's instructions, but his notebook was with her, its pages open to his meticulous notes. Vanessa slid a document across the desk, her voice steady. "Your Honor, you violated North Carolina Code of Judicial Conduct, Rule 211, by acting with apparent bias. You also breached federal protections under the Civil Rights Act by denying a minor access to a public proceeding based on his appearance and race. We have the transcript and witness statements." Grayson's hands trembled as he skimmed the document, a partial courtroom transcript highlighting his words. "This isn't a classroom, son, and you don't belong here." Mitchell interjected, her tablet, displaying the viral X clip of Isaiah's removal, now at 200,000 views. "This is already public, Your Honor. The DOJ is opening an inquiry, and the Judicial Standards Commission has been notified." Quan added, "We're requesting a full stenographic record of today's proceedings and a suspension of this case pending review." Grayson's face drained of color, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know who he was." Vanessa's gaze was unrelenting. "That's the issue, Your Honor. You didn't ask. You saw a black teenager and assumed he was out of place. That's not justice. It's prejudice." Grayson opened his mouth to protest, but no words came. Vanessa stood, her portfolio closed. "We're returning to the courtroom. I expect a public acknowledgement of the error and a halt to this case until procedures are clarified." The agents followed her out, leaving Grayson staring at the transcript, his career teetering on the edge. Back in courtroom 4A, the recess ended, and the gallery was now packed, word of the DOJ's arrival spreading through the courthouse. Isaiah sat in the front row, his notebook open, his pen moving again as he documented the scene. Vanessa took the floor, addressing the room. "Due to procedural violations, including the unlawful ejection of a protected minor, we move to suspend this hearing and nullify all rulings made today. The DOJ will oversee a review of this court's compliance with federal law." Emily Chen, emboldened, seconded the motion, while Holt, now sweating, offered no objection. Grayson, his voice strained, cleared his throat. "The court acknowledges an oversight in ejecting Mr. Turner. This hearing is suspended, and all decisions are held in abeyance pending review. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell, softer this time, and the room erupted in murmurs. Marcus's aunt stood clapping, her voice loud. "That's right, Isaiah. You showed 'em." The reporters rushed to file their stories, one calling it a teen's triumph over courtroom bias. Isaiah, still seated, met Vanessa's eyes, and she gave a subtle nod, her pride evident. As the courtroom cleared, Vanessa approached Isaiah, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You held your ground, and you won, not just for you, for everyone who gets pushed out." Isaiah smiled faintly, his voice quiet. "I just wanted to learn, Ms. Reynolds. I didn't expect this." She chuckled, her tone warm but fierce. "That's why you're my best student. You don't just learn, you change things." Mitchell handed Isaiah a business card from the DOJ's youth program, whispering, "Keep that notebook, you're going places." Isaiah tucked it into his pocket, his resolve stronger than ever. The viral clip of Isaiah's ejection exploded online, hitting 1 million views on TikTok by nightfall with comments like, "This kid's gonna be a legend," and "Judge got schooled." The Herald-Sun ran a front-page story quoting Isaiah, "I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be in the room." The backlash against Grayson was swift, with activists demanding his suspension and the Judicial Standards Commission launching a formal investigation. The courthouse, once a symbol of order, was now a battleground for reform, and Isaiah's name was at its center. The Durham County Courthouse stood quieter the next morning, its marble halls echoing with the weight of the previous day's upheaval. The fallout from Isaiah Turner's ejection and Vanessa Reynolds's courtroom takedown had ignited a firestorm, with local news vans from WRAL and ABC 11 parked outside, their reporters interviewing passers-by about the Durham courtroom scandal. The viral TikTok clip of Isaiah's removal, now at 3 million views, fueled debates on X with hashtags like Isaiah vs. Bias and Justice for Durham trending nationwide. Comments ranged from "This teen is a hero" to "Grayson needs to resign." The Durham Herald-Sun ran a blistering editorial calling for systemic reform, while community activists rallied on the courthouse steps, their signs reading, "Let our kids learn." Isaiah, the 17-year-old at the center of it all, was no longer just a high schooler from Haiti. He was a symbol of resistance, a voice for those silenced by power. Inside courtroom 4A, the air was heavy with absence. Judge Harold Grayson, under investigation by the North Carolina Judicial Standards Commission, had taken administrative leave, his bench now occupied by an interim judge, a soft-spoken woman named Clara Evans. The hearing for Marcus Hayes's case remained suspended, with all prior rulings nullified pending a DOJ review. Marcus, freed on recognizance, sat at home with his aunt, watching news coverage of Isaiah's stand. His gratitude mixed with awe. "That's my brother," he told her, shaking his head. He didn't even flinch. Emily Chen, Marcus's public defender, was preparing a motion to dismiss the charges entirely, citing procedural errors exposed by Vanessa's intervention. Isaiah, meanwhile, was back at Durham High trying to focus on his AP government class, but his phone buzzed relentlessly with messages, support from classmates, praise from teachers, and an email from a prestigious Raleigh law firm, Jenkins & Cole, offering a summer internship. His mentor, Vanessa Reynolds, had texted him at dawn. "You shook the system, Isaiah. Proud of you. Meet me at the office at 3. Isaiah, still processing the whirlwind, tucked his notebook into his backpack, its pages now a sacred record of the courtroom clash. He'd always dreamed of law school, but now the path felt real, urgent, paved by his own courage and Vanessa's fierce advocacy. At 3 p.m., Isaiah arrived at Vanessa's office, a modest space in downtown Durham leased by the DOJ's Juvenile Defense Program. The walls were lined with law books and framed certificates, a photo of Vanessa with Thurgood Marshall's family tucked in a corner. She sat at her desk, her gray suit replaced by a navy blazer, her braids loose, her expression a mix of warmth and intensity. "Sit, Isaiah," she said, gesturing to a chair. "You're famous now, but fame's a distraction. Let's talk about what's next." Isaiah nodded, setting his notebook down. "I didn't plan this, Ms. Reynolds. I just wanted to help Marcus and learn something." Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "That's why you're dangerous, Isaiah. You didn't go in there to pick a fight. You went to learn, and when they tried to shut you out, you didn't back down. That's what makes a lawyer, not a degree." She slid a folder across the desk labeled DOJ Youth Advocacy Initiative. "This is a program for kids like you, smart, driven, underestimated. I want you in it. Full-time mentorship, scholarship track to law school. You in?" Isaiah's breath caught, his fingers tracing the folder. "I'm in," he said, his voice steady but his heart racing. Their meeting was interrupted by a knock. Laura Mitchell, the DOJ observer, stepped in, her tablet glowing with updates. "The commission's fast-tracking Grayson's review," she said. "Your notes, Isaiah, and the transcript are airtight. He's facing possible suspension, maybe removal." She handed Vanessa a letter from the DOJ's Civil Rights Division, commending Isaiah's exceptional composure under pressure. Vanessa passed it to him, her smile rare but genuine. "Frame this, kid. You earned it." Isaiah read the letter, his chest swelling, but his mind stayed focused. He wasn't done learning. The story spread beyond Durham, with the Washington Post publishing a feature. "Teen's Courtroom Stand Exposes Judicial Bias." Isaiah's quote from the Herald Sun, "I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to be in the room," became a rallying cry, printed on T-shirts sold by local activists to fund legal aid. TikTok users remixed the courtroom clip with hip-hop beats, turning Isaiah into a Gen Z icon, while law schools from Howard to Duke sent recruitment letters impressed by his poise. Vanessa, fielding media requests, limited Isaiah's exposure, insisting he focus on school. "The world's watching," she told him, "but you're still a kid. Stay grounded." A week later, Durham's City Council held a public forum on courtroom equity, prompted by the scandal. The chamber was packed, with students, parents, and clergy spilling into the halls. Isaiah and Vanessa attended, seated near the front, their presence drawing applause before the meeting even started. Councilman Jamal Carter, a former public defender, opened with a nod to Isaiah. "This young man showed us what happens when we let bias run unchecked. We're here to make sure every kid can walk into a courtroom and be seen." Testimony followed, with Marcus's aunt sharing how Isaiah's stand gave her hope, and a law professor citing Grayson's actions as textbook prejudice. Isaiah, invited to speak, took the podium, his notebook in hand, his voice clear despite the spotlight. "I didn't expect to be here," he said, adjusting his glasses. "I just wanted to support my friend and learn how the system works. But I learned something else. When you're black, young, or from a place like Haiti, the system doesn't always want you in the room. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to make sure the next kid doesn't get kicked out." The room erupted, council members standing, Vanessa clapping with a pride she rarely showed. The council voted to fund a youth court observer program, naming it the Isaiah Turner Initiative, with Vanessa as its advisor. Grayson's investigation deepened, with the Judicial Standards Commission uncovering prior complaints about his conduct, disproportionate rulings against minority defendants, dismissive treatment of young attorneys. His leave became a suspension, and whispers of resignation circulated, his legacy tarnished. The courthouse, under Clara Evans's interim leadership, implemented mandatory bias training, with Isaiah invited to speak at the first session. He declined, citing school, but sent a written statement. "Respect isn't about who's in the room, It's about who you let stay. By October, Isaiah's life had shifted. Jenkins and Cole confirmed his internship, starting the next summer with a stipend to cover his senior year expenses. He spent evenings with Vanessa studying case law, his notebook now filled with legal terms and strategies. Marcus's case was dismissed after Emily Chen's motion succeeded. The traffic stop ruled unconstitutional. The friends celebrated at a Durham diner, Marcus punching Isaiah's shoulder. "You saved me, man. Gonna be my lawyer one day." Isaiah grinned. "Bet on it." The story's ripple effects endured. The Isaiah Turner Initiative trained its first cohort of teen observers, with Isaiah mentoring a shy 15-year-old who reminded him of himself. Durham High's mock trial team, inspired by his stand, won regionals, dedicating their trophy to him. On X, a viral thread by a law student analyzed Isaiah's notes, calling them a masterclass in observation. Vanessa, watching his growth, told him one evening, "They tried to kick you out, Isaiah. Now you're walking through the front door. Keep it open for the next kid." In November, Isaiah stood outside the Durham County Courthouse, no longer in sneakers but a tailored blazer, a leather briefcase gifted by Vanessa in his hand. He was there for his first official court observation with the DOJ program, shadowing a case Vanessa was arguing. The security guard, recognizing him, gave a respectful nod. "Heard about you, young man. Welcome back." Isaiah smiled, adjusting his glasses. "Good to be here." He stepped through the front doors, his briefcase light but his purpose heavy, ready to learn, to challenge, to change. The courtroom, once a place that rejected him, was now his classroom, and Isaiah Turner was just getting started. This story isn't just about one teen or one judge. It's about the power of presence, the cost of prejudice, and the systems that shift when courage meets truth. Isaiah Turner didn't need a law degree to shut down a courtroom. He needed only his notebook and the will to stay in the room. If this story stirred you, hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more tales that challenge what we think we know about justice and resilience.